This is Histories and Mysteries. I'm Ashley.
I'm Jessica, and on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be talking about the murder of Sarah Beasley and John Salazar.
Yeah.
And I am going to be talking about the Schuyler sisters.
Yay, I'm very excited. I know only of them from Hamilton.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted to do them this week is because I just started listening to the album again. I was like, oh yeah, I remember I wanted to do one of them. And then I sent Ashley like a few different characters. Well, I guess not really characters, but people. And asked her to pick which ones that I should talk about. She said the Schuyler sisters.
I did. So. I'm very excited.
Yeah. I'm only talking about Angelica and Eliza because they're the only like really interesting ones.
Okay.
And there wasn't a lot on Peggy, honestly. And then I didn't really look into any of the other siblings.
Oh, I didn't know there was more than the three, but okay.
Yes. Fun fact, they actually had a brother.
Oh.
So the song was a lie. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, I am definitely excited, but I thought I would go back to my roots and do a murder for us this week.
Yay.
I got my information from a show on ID called Murder Comes to Town, from the Denver Post and from the Cinema Post.
Oh, okay.
So Murder Comes to Town is a show about like a bunch of small town murders. So if you're into that, there actually is a podcast, I think, called Small Town Murders, but they have a whole show on the ID channel.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
I wonder if they're affiliated.
Oh, that'd be cool. Okay, so I'm gonna hop in, but before I do, can we recognize that I look less pale today?
You do look less pale.
I think it's because I have the window open, so it's not just the white light on me.
Oh, nice.
But I look like a human.
That's awesome. I also it's gonna be really fucking weird. I want to give a shout out to my therapist.
Oh, hi, therapist.
She told me that she was going to listen. She said that she was interested in listening. So if you are listening, hello.
Oh, very nice.
She's really nice. I love her.
Oh, good. It's always good to find a good therapist.
Yeah. I'm going to be sad when we're done.
Yeah.
But she's super sweet. She's really nice. So
I
got a good one.
Good. Well, hi, good therapist. We love all good therapists.
Yes. Anyways, tell me about some
murders.
Mentally ill people.
Yeah. All right. So our story takes place in Monte Vista, Colorado on February 13th, 2012. Not 2020, 2012.
Okay. A little bit further away.
Yeah, just a little bit. 911 dispatch received a disturbing call. The caller said, "My neighbor's kids are here and they said that they broke into their house and they killed their mom and dad."
What?
This made me laugh. The dispatcher, she goes, "Wow, did they give you any details as to who came in the house?" I was like, that's a weird reaction, but sure.
What?
She was like, "Wow."
Was she not even listening?
I don't know. It was weird. She's like, "Wow, did they give you any details?"
Hold up.
Okay.
The way that you read that made me think that the children broke into their own house and killed their parents.
Yeah, it does read like that. This is verbatim from the 911 call, but no, they did not.
Okay. No, that's why I was like, what?
Oh, yes. No, it does read like that though.
Yes.
I think she should have said that he broke into their house and he killed mom and dad. Yeah. But she said they for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Pause.
So we found a new way to record on Zoom and this back and forth kind of like conversation type thing. So we're going to try it. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Let us know if it's weird, if it's awesome, if it's somewhere in between. We both look like hot messes today, so just forgive us.
Don't mind us. Okay, so then the caller said, they said some guy with a mask on, get somebody here, my God. So Billy Garcia is the first on the scene, and he found a gruesome sight. There was one body on the ground in the grass in front of the house. He immediately drew his weapon, went for cover, and called for backup. Once backup arrived, they saw written in red on the side of the house, "My drugs are not free."
What?
And the R was spelled like just the letter R.
Oh, that is not where I thought that was going.
I know. And it was in red spray paint. So remember that.
Oh, I thought it was going to be in red blood. Okay.
No, that would have been creepy.
Yeah.
I forgot to like draw on my eyebrows today. Oh well. So the police begin to clear the house, where they found the same thing painted on an inside door. And behind the door in the room was Sarah Beasley, shot dead and lying face down.
Oh.
As detectives were securing the scene, another officer went to talk to the kids. The oldest son, James, said he woke up to his mom screaming, and he went to look and he said he saw like fire coming out of the gun. So like the shot is basically what he saw. And it was his mom getting shot. He said he didn't know the guy who did it, but he was dressed in all black with a black ski mask, a kind of black puffy coat. And he said the murderer mouthed to him, "Shh."
Ew.
Yeah. James then grabbed his brothers. He had 2 younger brothers, a rifle, ammunition, and ran to the neighbors to call 911. He was 8 and he knew to do all of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So an investigator took a deeper look at the crime scene and realized the man on the ground outside was Sarah's boyfriend, John Salazar. They said he looked like he was trying to get back into the house. He had a wound in the center of his chest, so it looked like, maybe he was shot and he was trying to get back in the house. He had 2 in his back, one from the right angle, one from the left, and one through his hand, which looked like a defensive wound. So it seemed like he was like face to face with this killer for a little bit.
Oh.
Then the last shot was in his head, and this is the one that ultimately ended his life. They did see a blue flashlight on the ground near John's body and took note of that. And you should also take note of that, Jessica.
The flashlight?
Yes.
Okay, so red spray paint and a flashlight.
Yes.
Okay.
They found several bullet holes in the door, shell casings in the kitchen, behind the heater, and they found that poor Sarah was shot 3 times in the back in her son's room. So like she was trying to get to her boys. And the boys had to walk over their mom's body to get out of the room.
Oh, I don't like that.
They were 8, 6, and 2. Poor babies.
That trauma is just going to like...
Yeah.
Those poor babies.
So police got to work trying to figure out who had done this. The message left on the house and the door were weird. Sarah and John didn't seem to be involved in the drug world at all. John had been an elementary school janitor for 30 years and was really well known in the community, and everybody really, really liked him. And Sarah at the time was going through school to be a counselor and was a single mother to 3 boys. So it's not like she had a lot of time for recreational drugs.
Yeah.
Her 2 eldest sons, their father died in a boating accident in 2008. But her youngest son father was a truck driver who lived nearby. So he was still, a part of the kid's life and everything. So John and Sarah met. This is a really cute story. So John was doing the crosswalk sign for the elementary kids, and Sarah went by that place often, and they were immediately attracted to each other. And so one day they finally decided to exchange numbers.
Oh, that's so cute.
Isn't that cute? And they ended up moving in together. And they shared the house, those 2, and then her 3 boys. While the police were looking through the crime scene, they also found Sarah's phone, and they saw that her last incoming text was from an out-of-town number, and it belonged to a Leon Parrish, but no one knew who that was, which is surprising in such a small town. So they knew he had to be not a townie. He had to be out of town.
Yeah.
And his last text to Sarah was at 4 a.m. and it said, "Are you awake?" Sounds like a booty call to me.
Yeah, nothing after like midnight is anything but a booty call.
Yeah. And John and Sarah were murdered less than a half hour later after that message.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But looking through the messages, police got the idea that Leon did like Sarah and wanted a relationship with her, but Sarah did not. So Leon became suspect numero uno.
Yeah.
But the police department were in way over their heads. Their department consisted of 15 police officers, including the chief, and that was it.
Aw.
Yeah, and they didn't even really have a dedicated detective department. So they ended up calling in the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and the FBI, which good on them because, sometimes egos can get in the way and they don't do that. But these guys did. They're like, you know what? We need help.
I really love that.
Yeah, I do too. So police started canvassing the neighborhood to see if anyone saw anything, but no one did. And almost everyone they asked said that neither victim had any history of drugs, so that message was hella weird on their door. They did finally track down Leon Parrish in Salt Lake City, Utah. And during the time of the murder, he had to check in for work. And at the time that he checked in, there was no way he could have gotten to and from Colorado in the amount of time. So he was ruled out. But then someone showed up at the police station of his own free will.
Oh.
It was the father of Sarah's youngest son, Daniel Bessie. Apparently, Sarah's mother had called him and told him that Sarah had been murdered and that he should go check in with the police as soon as possible. Police did use this time to do some questioning of Daniel, and they asked how his relationship with Sarah was. He said it was fine. There weren't any issues. He could see his son whenever he wanted. Like there wasn't any custody issues going on, nothing like that. And so then they, of course, asked him, where were you, the night of the murder? And he said he was working. He took a load up to Grand Junction, and on his way back, he stopped in Montrose and slept for 7 hours or so and then drove home. Remember, he was a truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
And he got kind of offended by the questioning, but police just reassured him that they were doing their job and asking everyone questions. And I can kind of get that, where you get a little like, why do you think I did? Like, why are you asking me these questions?
But like you literally show up at the police station.
Yeah.
They're obviously going to question you.
Yeah. So then the detective started to ask about stuff at the crime scene, specifically the blue flashlight. He was like, do you know anything about blue flashlight? And he was like, oh yeah, that's mine. And the detective was like, excuse me? Why was it there?
No kidding. And then he's like, why are you questioning me?
Yeah.
What a dumbass.
And so my first thought was, that's really freaking weird because who remembers where they leave a random object like that, right?
Yeah.
But then this made sense. So he said that Sarah was having some car problems the week before and asked him to come look at it. And when he packed up to leave, he left the flashlight there on accident. And Sarah had called him the next day to say, hey, you left your flashlight here. And he said he'd stop and pick it by Monday. So like nothing to see here, move along.
Who doesn't own a flashlight though? And it just seems weird that it's okay. Never mind. I honestly was like, I was thinking that when you said blue flashlight, that it was like the blue light of like the blue light. And I was like, oh, that's not super common, but
no, just regular flashlight
color
blue. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So after the sergeant spoke with Daniel, he headed over to his old friend's place and who happened to be Daniel's boss. And he said, hey, can I search Daniel's truck and look at the road logs? And his buddy was like, yeah, sure thing. No problem. Go for it. Inside the truck, he found a blue cooler with beers and a bag of ice, which makes sense if he had spent the night in his truck the night before. And his logs matched his story as well. So if the road logs are truthful, Daniel was not by Sarah's house at the time of her and John's murder. So once the other agencies arrived, they split into 2 investigative units. One that looked at a drug angle because of that message, and then one that looked at it from not a drug angle because everybody said that's weird. So they split into these 2 things to investigate. The ones who were the non-drug unit started to become suspicious of Sarah's ex-boyfriend, Sean Weeks. He lived not far from Sarah's house, so he would have had the location to commit the murder and get back to his house. Once there and they were talking to him, police noticed a pretty big cut on his arm and asked what that was from. And he said, oh, I don't know, probably working on cars or something. They then asked where he was the night of the murder. And he said, I was home sleeping, but he didn't have anybody to corroborate that, which that always sucks. Like if that's really what you're doing, like who, if you live alone, you don't have anyone to corroborate that for you. So that sucks. But
yeah, like ask my cat.
Yeah, exactly. He said that him and Sarah had a good relationship, but that John didn't really like him hanging around, which I don't blame John. Why would you want your girlfriend's ex-boyfriend hanging around?
Yeah.
He said, but that, didn't give him a reason to kill John, and he didn't know anyone that would have a reason to kill John. But can we pause for a second? The actor that played Sean in this documentary, hella hot.
Was he?
Yeah, so nice looking. So anyway, they went back to Sarah's mom because at this point they had nothing. They had nothing to go on. Every lead they had just led to nothing. Like they had nothing. So they're like, well, let's go back and talk to Sarah's mom and see if, she can remember anything else, if anything else jogs their memory. Like they're grasping at straws at this point. So she's like trying to think, and she's like, well, I don't know if this matters, but a few days before the murder, Sarah came to my house and she went shopping with her aunt, my sister. They were gone for a few hours and then got back close to dinner time. But that's really, it was a couple of days before she was murdered. So like, I don't, but no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, well, it's something. So let's look into this. So Ortega went to the store and pulled the security footage. Excuse me. Pulled the security footage of Sarah's trip with her aunt. And they said, yep, she's there. She's getting into her car in the parking lot about 3 p.m. Normal shopping trip. Well, if you remember, the father of her youngest, Daniel, said that he was fixing her car at this exact time.
Oh.
But they have her on video getting into her car at the store.
Oh my gosh.
So
you didn't tell me to remember that point.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry.
I'm so rude.
So they're like, that's weird. Mm-hmm. They're like, let's get a warrant. And they looked through his cell phone records and they saw that his cell phone, oh my goodness, his cell phone pinged off a tower not near Sarah's house when he said he was there fixing her car. So then how did the flashlight get there, Daniel?
Oh.
So they get a warrant to search Daniel's home, and he wasn't there, but his girlfriend who was taking care of Sarah and Daniel's son was there and let him inside, where they found a black Pelican gun case that had a .22 target pistol, which is the pistol that was used to murder John and Sarah. It was like a case and it had like the cutout of where the pistol would like rest, but the pistol was gone. They also found some child custody paperwork. So apparently there was some issues going on with the custody of their son. But this stuff is all only circumstantial. They didn't have a murder weapon. They didn't have him there at the time of the murder. So they needed more.
Could they not do the cell phone ping again? Like
they do in a bit.
Okay. Okay.
So a year after Sarah and John's murder, Daniel is identified as the primary suspect. But again, they don't have enough to arrest him on. But then they got more of his cell phone record, Jessica.
Perfect.
And they saw that his night in Montrose was a lie. He wasn't actually there.
No, really?
Yeah, he was actually much closer to Sarah and John's house. But they still needed more. They needed some kind of concrete evidence. So they decided to look more at the murder weapon. And they did figure out that Daniel had bought a .22 Ruger from his friend, who had bought it from a guy who lived in North Dakota. This is the cool, like, this is so smart. So they went to talk to the guy in North Dakota, and I know nothing about guns. So I was like, why? What does that matter? Like, he sold the gun. It's not a big deal. But get this. So the guy said that he sold it, but he had put a scope on it and he had used it in a meadow to elk hunt. So he took the detective to the spot where he would elk hunt. And they searched with a metal detector and they found 9 shell casings and pieces of a stump that he had like shot into. And they sent them off and they were an exact match to the shells found at the crime scene. And there was proof that Daniel had purchased the gun. So now they have a direct link to the murder weapon and Daniel.
And it makes sense that it would be him because, like you said, the child custody papers and the fact that he didn't kill the children.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Like that. Yeah.
Yep. So he was arrested.
Good.
But he refuses to talk about anything.
Of course.
They also charge him with, and I loved this, they also charged him with child abuse for the trauma he caused Sarah's sons for murdering her in front of them.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So a year after his arrest, Daniel is convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder, burglary, criminal mischief, 3 counts of misdemeanor child abuse, and 3 counts of misdemeanor reckless endangerment of a child. And he was sentenced to 238 years in prison.
Wow.
Yes. Unfortunately, he never spoke up as to why he did it, what his motive was. I mean, I'm assuming it has to do with a child custody case, or whatever was going on with that, but he never spoke up and said why.
Wow.
Yeah. So poor Sarah's sons are now motherless, and her one son, the youngest, dad, killed his mom.
That's insane.
So sad. Yeah. So that is my story on Sarah and John. May they rest in peace, poor things.
I loved it for the fact that the bad guy actually got what he deserved.
Yes. 100%.
And yeah, no, because you don't honestly see that very often. I mean, time will tell if he gets out on parole or anything for good behavior, but
with 238 years, I would be surprised.
But
as of now, he's
people
still
that
in
have
prison.
done worse that don't get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just insane.
Yeah.
But I like that. I love that they called in the FBI too. I thought that was
everything was handled really well.
Yeah. Oh, that was awesome. Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was an interesting story.
I loved it so much. Now, oh God, there's a dog here.
To a less sad story.
Yeah, to now like a lovely history story.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm going to talk about the Schuyler sisters. And if you've seen Hamilton, you know all about them. There was Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. And I'm just going to talk about Angelica and Eliza because I found the most information on them and they're kind of the most important to the whole story.
Gotcha.
So let's crack into it. So I got my resources from All That's Interesting, of course. And Harper's Bazaar.
Oh, I like Harper's Bazaar.
Same. So I'll start with Angelica. So in their correspondence, Angelica Schuyler and Alexander Hamilton showed signs of a flirtatious connection.
Not to like stop you right off the bat, but I hated that. Because that's your freaking sister's husband, girl. Back off. Oh, that made me so mad when I was watching Hamilton. I was like, oh, I'm so mad. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. It's true though, but I mean, like, Hamilton also did it, you know, like.
Oh yeah, he's a jerk too, but
he's a jerky jerk. So how serious was their relationship in reality? Because the show kind of like does it a bit more.
Oh, okay.
So Angelica was known for her beauty, her intelligence, and her rumored affair with her brother-in-law. And she was also the daughter of a Revolutionary War hero.
Oh.
Yes. So, did Angelica actually betray her sister, despite the fact that Hamilton was notorious for his philandering?
Yeah, that's a word.
Oh, I thought it was philanthroping.
Well, there's philanthropy, which is like charity work.
Okay, yeah, definitely philandering. And he was also exposed in the first political sex scandal in 1797.
He was a horn dog.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes, he was. On February 20th, 1756, Angelica Schuyler Church was born. She was the eldest child of Catherine von Rensselaer, a member of one of the wealthiest families in the state, and General Philip Schuyler, a Revolutionary War hero who subsequently served as one of the state's first senators.
Oh.
In upstate New York, Schuyler and her siblings enjoyed a protected upbringing. She was compared to her reserved sister, Eliza. Oh, I don't know why, I just like
Eliza.
Well, I was gonna call her Elizabeth because that's her full name, but
oh, I gotcha.
But she was always compared to Eliza, because she was more extroverted and described as educated, intellectual, and lovely.
Angelica or Eliza?
Angelica.
Okay.
Yes, because Eliza was very reserved.
Gotcha.
Yes. Both Schuyler sisters were rich socialites who frequently socialized with handsome young soldiers at officers' dances. Angelica encountered John Barker Church, who was a prosperous British businessman who left London and joined the Continental Army as she flitted between social circles. A 21-year-old Skyler eloped with Church in 1777 out of concern for her father's reaction to their union.
Oh, no, that's naughty back then.
Yeah. Church had left England's bankruptcy by traveling to the United States under the alias John Carter. Oh, there was a movie called John Carter.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, what was that? I'm looking it up. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's a science fiction.
Yeah, it kind of flopped.
And it's a Civil War veteran movie, I guess.
Oh!
So I guess it is about that one, right?
Cool.
Maybe. But he awakes on the surface of Mars.
Yeah, and this isn't the Civil War. This is the
Revolutionary War.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay, never mind. Never mind. Take that out. I just saw war and I was like, oh, it's the same thing. But yes, you're right. Those are two wars.
That's so funny. He achieved financial success by serving as a supplier to both the French and American forces. And he was later chosen to take on the role of commissary general for General Washington throughout the conflict. General Skyler alluded to his regret in his daughter's elopement in a letter to Alexander Hamilton, who would eventually wed Schuyler Church's sister Eliza, stating, Mrs. Schuyler did not see her eldest daughter married. That hurt me as well, and we hope to avoid going through that again.
Oh,
it is really sad.
But that's kind of like a little jab at you there.
Yeah, and she wasn't the only sibling to elope.
Oh, so their dad must have been pretty strict, I would assume.
Yeah. Well, he was part of the Senate, Revolutionary War hero, right? You're gonna have high expectations.
Yeah.
Despite this, 6 years went by and Skyler and her husband moved to Europe with their 2 children. They first lived in London, and her husband raised a total of 8 kids there while also becoming close friends with the Prince of Wales.
8 kids.
Yeah. Not the part where they became friends with the Prince of Wales.
No, the 8 kids.
Okay. When Church was chosen to represent Britain in the British Parliament in 1790, the couple's social standing further increased. Additionally, Schuyler spent a lot of time in Paris. Due to the prominence of her family, the marriage of her sister, and the political ties of her husband, Schuyler frequently hosted prominent dignitaries and public figures in the affluent Parisian circles.
Oh.
Despite the fact that her husband was a politician, Angelica Schuyler was astute enough to establish her own network of power in Europe. In the presence of diplomats, artists, and academics alike, she held her own. She frequently threw parties with a distinguished guest list that included political heavyweights like Edmund Burke and the Marquis de Lafayette, who escaped from a Prussian jail with the aid of her husband.
Lafayette.
Lafayette. Guns and Chips is like my favorite song.
It's a good one.
It's so good, and I had it on repeat until I could get it word for word through that insane first part. Like, oh my god.
That's
awesome. My throat hurt. I was singing that song so much, trying to get it perfect. And Lafayette escaped from a Prussian jail with the aid of Angelica's husband, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And they also partied with artists like John Trumbull and Richard and Maria Causeway.
Ah, yes, John Trumbull. Mm-hmm.
Is he good?
No, I'm totally bullshitting. I have no idea who that is. Oh.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. It's so funny. We're uncultured swines. It's okay. Around 1786, Maria Causeway introduced Angelica Schuyler to Thomas Jefferson. The daughter of the Schuylers, Catherine, known as Kitty, went to the same school as Jefferson's own child. Kitty even became something of a ward for Jefferson. So they're like really involved in everybody's business and lives. And
Yeah.
One of the most well-known rumors about Angelica, however, like we talked about earlier, was that she was having an affair with her brother-in-law,
which makes me even more mad because she eloped with her husband. So it's like, you made this choice. You eloped going against like your family's wishes, which is fine. But then you're going to flirt with your sister's husband?
Yeah.
Jessica, I cannot.
Yeah, it's not great. But is it true?
Oh, is it not? That would make me happy.
The two developed a strong bond and frequently wrote one another. Schuyler once asked Hamilton in a lighthearted letter with a postmark of February 19th, 1796, to assist her in finding a home before her family returned to New York from Europe. She said, quote, "I am sensible how much trouble I give you, but you will have the goodness to excuse it when you know that it proceeded from a persuasion." This is not great English. I'm starting that again.
Okay.
So Angelica said, quote, "I am sensible how much trouble I give you, but you will have the goodness to excuse it when you know that it proceeded from a persuasion that I was asking from one who promised me his love and attention if I returned to America, unquote. Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Also, why are you writing your sister's husband? Why don't you write your sister?
Yeah, ask her to find you a house. But she just wants some love and attention.
Yeah, she just wants attention is the issue.
Skyler's own admissions of her love for her brother raised even more concerns about their connection. In one of her letters, she bluntly admitted to her sister that she loved Hamilton very much. And if you were as generous as the old Romans, you would lend him to me for a while.
Ah! The nerve!
Oh my god.
If I was Eliza, I'd be like,
poor
time to murder
Eliza.
some sisters. Well, listen, murder was pretty common back then, so
yeah, considering in this like Hamilton story alone, at least, like him and his son both died in duels.
Let's go, Angelica. Bring it on, bitch. That makes me so mad.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Later though, Hamilton was involved in a sex scandal involving a married woman named Maria Reynolds, which made many people think that he might also be having an affair with Angelica.
I mean, you have one affair. What's to stop you from having another?
Exactly. Later, Angelica and her family made their way back to New York, where she built a mansion for herself. During this time, she didn't correspond with Jefferson or anyone else much, but her daughter Kitty kept up the correspondence. Until her death at the age of 58 in 1815, Schuyler lived in New York with her family. Her husband, or in some articles it was her son, also purchased a little town in 1800 and named it after her. So they named it Angelica. Oh. It's a little town in New York.
Oh.
Apparently you can still visit it.
Interesting.
Yes. So that was all about Miss Angelica Schuyler.
Not a fan.
I found it really interesting to learn how connected she was with everybody, though.
Sure. I'm just kidding. I'm looking up Angelica, New York right now.
Oh, nice.
It looked interesting. Let's see what's the population really quick. 1,358 people.
That's adorable. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay. Where are we at?
Tell me about the beautiful Eliza.
Eliza and
every time that's what is in my head every single time.
Okay, so Elizabeth Schuyler, who is going to be referred to as Eliza.
I love that name.
Isn't that super cute?
Yeah, I really like Eliza.
Oh, sorry. Pause again. I'm so sorry. So, Eliza Schuyler. Alexander Hamilton was the nation's first president, and he had already brought shame upon Eliza Hamilton when he was assassinated in a duel with a vengeful foe in 1804. Yeah.
He wasn't our first president.
Oh.
George Washington was our first president.
Yeah. Oh my God. Why does it say that? Okay.
Let me see, what president was he?
He wasn't a president.
Oh yeah, maybe he
was a founding father.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hamilton will never be president now. Because of his sex scandal, he would never gonna be president.
Yep, you're right. You're right.
Be president. President.
He was an aide and advisor to the country's first president.
Yeah. I'm just gonna start a thing all over again.
Okay.
La, 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 la. So now I'm going to talk about Elizabeth Schuyler, who we will fondly call Eliza
I
Schuyler.
love that name. It's so pretty, Eliza.
So pretty. Her husband was Alexander Hamilton. He was a founding father, and he brought shame upon Eliza when he was assassinated in a duel with a vengeful foe in 1804. I swear I have not been drinking. It's been a long week.
Did his son die first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In a duel as well, because someone spoke ill of his father.
But they spoke the truth, right?
Probably.
So
wink, wink.
I thought it was over his scandal, but maybe it was over something else. I don't know. Anyway, continue with your story.
I don't know. Alexander's wife discovered herself deeply in debt and on her own to care for 7 children after he was shot to death. So
7 kids.
Yeah. 7 kids.
On her own back then when women couldn't like really work.
Yeah, and those were the kids that survived.
Wow.
Yep.
Good job, Hamilton.
But Eliza was not your typical 19th century housewife. After her spouse passed away, she actively promoted child welfare in her neighborhood. Despite how she had been humiliated by her husband in a highly public extramarital affair years before, she even used her power to restore her spouse's moral standing.
Oh, good for her.
Really, though?
Well, I mean, for her, that was probably very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Eliza was born to a wealthy American family on August 7th, 1757. She was the second child of Revolutionary War era Continental General Philip Schuyler. One of the wealthiest and most powerful families in the state of New York at the time was the then Rensselaer family, of which her mother was a member. I know we already went through all of this, but we just need to reiterate. In upstate New York, Eliza undoubtedly had a wonderfully nice upbringing. Few of Eliza Hamilton's personal letters have survived. Thus, the majority of what is known about her comes through the letters of others. Her reputation as an outdoorsy, quick-witted, and devoted Christian would later have an impact on how she raised her own children. Oh. When Hamilton and her sisters were young, they spent a lot of time dancing at social events where they interacted with available soldiers. Young officer Alexander Hamilton was one of the Continental soldiers Eliza Schuyler had a romance with. During the American Revolution, according to the stories, Eliza first met Alexander during an officer's ball. In Morristown, New Jersey, where she was staying with her aunt, Schuyler Hamilton made friends with none other than Martha Washington, Alexander Hamilton, George Washington's aide-de-camp, and Washington had spent the winter in the New Jersey hamlet. So they say that they met originally at the ball, but that wasn't where they originally met. That was just where they kind of reconnected.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Eliza and the young officer were immediately smitten. One aide described Hamilton as a gone man.
Oh.
They had their first encounter 2 years earlier. Here we go. At the residence in Albany, probably as a result of Philip Schuyler and Alexander's shared political contacts. Eliza and Alexander then reconnected at the celebration in 1780, which led to a courtship and quick marriage. So I didn't mean to repeat that.
Why was it a quick marriage?
Oh, probably because he wanted to lock that bitch down because he was poor as shit.
Yeah, and she was super wealthy.
Yes, exactly. I copy and pasted this next part because it was too awful and too good in a sense.
Okay.
To not copy word for word.
Gotcha.
Just hold on to your pants, okay?
Oh gosh, okay.
In one of his many love letters to his future wife, the young officer wrote, "I meet you in every dream, and when I wake, I cannot close my eyes for ruminating on your sweetness. However, When writing to a fellow aide, Hamilton said that his future wife was, quote, "It's so bad. Not a genius. She has good sense enough to be agreeable, and though not a beauty, she has fine black eyes, is rather handsome, and has every other requisite of the exterior to make a lover happy."
At first I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And then you're like, wait. And I waited and I hated it.
Is that terrible?
Hamilton.
Like, dude. Yeah. So, it was terrible. His irregular letters appear to foresee the couple's upcoming marital problems.
Oh, you think?
Yeah. The pair wed at the Skyler home in December 1780 after a brief romance. Together, they had 8 kids, and they even took in a friend's orphaned daughter.
Aww.
Hamilton proclaimed that she was the happiest of ladies, despite the fact that she had a lot on her plate between being a mother and helping her husband with his political career.
And his infidelities, you know.
Yes. The next part's really sad given what we know. But she said, quote, "Every day my lovely Hamilton loves me more." Can you pause? So after that really lovely sentiment about her husband being like super mean behind her back, and then her saying, you know,
he loves me more every day.
Yeah. I'm like,
Sad.
So sad. But her and her family relocated to a home in Upper Manhattan in 1802, which was situated on 32 acres of farmland.
Oh, wow.
Which is probably not a thing anymore. In recognition of his father's Scottish heritage. Excuse me. Which I don't understand why he would want to recognize his father in any way, considering his father abandoned him.
Yeah. I don't know.
But anyways, when they bought the estate, he gave it the name of the Grange.
Oh.
I don't know why. Eliza Hamilton turned out to be quite the benefit to his profession, despite what he might have thought about her. She worked with him to prepare several significant speeches, such as George Washington's farewell address. So, who's stupid now, Alexander? Yeah. Dumbass. Yet there were still issues in their marriage, such as when Philip, their firstborn, died in a duel in 1801. Ironically, 3 years later, Hamilton also died in the same place in the same way.
Yeah.
And also, that affair is just kind of in the background playing its part.
You know, it's there, but
yeah, just doing its thing. So he was the first political sex scandal in 1797. And the thing that always bugs me about this is that, you know, he had this sex scandal, and because of that, he was never going to become president. I wish that would still pertain to today. You know? That was always the one thing that always bugged me about that, was that he did that and he got that taken away from him. Why can't that just be upheld today?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that your personal life like that should be taken into consideration when becoming president, unless you're like harassing women or like, you know, stuff like that. But if you're just having an affair on your wife, like, I don't necessarily think that negates you as a president, but it would have taken care of Trump.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that Hamilton should have like had that opportunity taken away from him just because of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, in today's society, like, they do worse things.
Yeah.
And they're still in power. So
yep.
Anyways. So this affair was a little bit more complicated though, because Maria and her husband had conspired together that they would blackmail Hamilton for money.
That's what you get for putting your dick where it doesn't belong, Hamilton.
Yeah. Trying to get ahead of the story, Hamilton published the Reynolds Pamphlet, which was
so stupid. Such an idiot.
It was 100 pages describing the affair. 100 pages. What the fuck?
Oh, hammy boy.
Who needs 100 pages to describe an affair?
Oh, hammy boy.
Like, what? Like, what? They did it in a 5-minute song. What the hell do you need 100 pages for? Like,
truth.
But I think he was like fairly known for that, for writing in excess.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. Anyways, that was just like, why?
Yeah.
And it actually did like the complete opposite, because it really humiliated Eliza, and she was constantly under attack by the press.
Poor thing.
Yeah. Which is like, why? It wasn't her fault. Wasn't her doing. Like, why is she the one that's under attack? I don't understand.
Because she's a woman, Jessica, and women are dumb.
Justice for Eliza.
I was being sarcastic, by the way, listeners.
No, I think we know.
I hope so.
We all know that. So one newspaper wrote, "Art thou a wife? See him whom thou hast chosen for the partner of this life, lolling in the lap of a harlot."
That's very dramatic writing.
Yeah. Good writing, but dramatic writing.
Very dramatic.
Then in 1804, Vice President Aaron Burr, challenged Hamilton to a duel, which resulted in Hamilton's death. Long-standing animosity between the two men reached a boiling point that year when Burr learned Hamilton had insulted him at a dinner. Like, what is with these men and their egos?
Unchecked and allowed to flourish.
Like, holy crap.
Can you imagine how many people would be dead if everybody killed the person that insulted them at a dinner one time?
Literally, probably my whole family. Jokes. But like, honestly, like, learn to take a joke, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Get woke. Is that how they use it? Is that the right way to use that?
I don't think that's how the kids are saying it, Jess.
I don't know. Their terminology is whacked.
Oh no. Are you 90? Oh gosh.
No, because all of their language is just weird and confusing to me, but the one word I will not give up is yeet.
Oh.
I love it. Kyle and I use it all the time, and he hates all those like stupid terms as well, but he's like, we cannot give up yeet. Yeah, it's just so funny. Anyways, Burr challenged Hamilton to a traditional gunfight when Hamilton refused to retract his comments and instead published them in a newspaper.
Hamilton.
Oh my god.
Hamilton. He was our founding father.
Yeah, he was petty AF.
Yeah. He's kind of a shitty person.
He was a super shitty person. I'm pretty sure he had slaves as well.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Hamilton's father had fortunately given Eliza a little inheritance, which enabled her to support her children. Her husband's supporters and friends also contributed funds to allow the Hamilton family to stay on the estate.
Oh, good.
Yeah. One of her children remembered her at this time to be a skillful housewife, expert of making sweet meats and pastry.
Aww.
She made the undergarments for her children, was a great economist, and a most excellent manager.
Oh, that's very nice.
Isn't that so sweet?
That is very nice.
Eliza, however, did not wallow in her troubles. She became a member of the Society for the Relief of Poor Widows and Small Children and requested permission from Congress to inherit her husband's pension.
Good. At least
Yeah.
he'd give her something. Shit.
She deserves that shit.
Yeah. She went through enough with him. Jeez.
She established the New York Orphan Asylum Society in 1806, which was the first private orphanage in the city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she did that with a number of other local activists. So it wasn't just her, but still.
Yeah.
Pretty darn awesome.
Yeah.
She took over as director in 1821 and continued to be active until she was very old.
Good for her.
Yeah. She would also take in abandoned kids herself despite her ongoing financial difficulties.
Aww.
A mission to preserve Alexander Hamilton's legacy was also launched by his wife, who enlisted biographers and aides to catalog and archive his writings. Sometime before she passed away, she did, for whatever motive, destroy her husband's love letters. Which
the love letters to her?
Yeah. Which, understandable.
I'm surprised it took her so long to do that, but yeah.
And honestly, it's so contradictory because she's trying to like restore his legacy while also simultaneously probably hating his guts.
Yeah, maybe she just saw like what he did for the country, and was trying to.
And honestly, like I don't know much about him, but like I think he did do a lot of good, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he helped write the Constitution and all that stuff. So
yeah. So that's cool. That's good for him.
Yeah,
but also shitty individual, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't come at me. I'm Canadian. I don't know anything.
Sounds like he was a real dick.
Yeah, I'm going off of a musical and and some things that I have read.
Yeah.
She passed away at what age, Ashley?
98.
You were so close. 97.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah. Like, how sad though, because her sister died at like 58.
Well, her sister's a whore, so. Just kidding. I take it back. That was awful.
Am I leaving that in?
Let's not. I think people might get offended that I use the word whore.
Okay.
Take that out, Ashley.
And the orphanage she founded, which is still operated today, is called the Graham Wyndham Orphanage, and it is the oldest non-sectarian orphanage in America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that is my story on the Schuyler Sisters.
Oh, I loved it. Thank you. That was really good.
You're welcome. Honestly, anytime I listen to the play, like to the musical, I just want to do I just want to research all of them to actually know like what was going on and stuff.
You should do Lafayette next week.
Oh, okay. I can do that. I love Lafayette. Do you have any jokes for me?
I do. It's a really cheesy one. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Which bear is the most condescending?
Pooh Bear.
A panda.
I love it. Oh, that was so cute. I have a couple of jokes from a listener.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Her name is Ashley as well.
It was me. I sent him it. No, I'm just kidding.
It wasn't, I swear. I have the Instagram receipts. So she sent these a couple weeks ago, and I said that I would tell them in like last week's recording, and I forgot. So
okay.
Sorry, Ashley.
It's okay.
She sent me two.
Okay.
Why does the Norway Navy have barcodes on the side of their ships?
I don't know why.
So when they come back to port, they can Scandinavian.
I like that one.
Yeah. And then one more. What happens when Egyptians become teenagers?
I don't know what.
They experience angst. Like it's supposed to be angst, but it's spelled because of ankh, the ankh.
Yeah.
They experience angst.
I think that's the joke, Jessica. But thank you for explaining it.
Yeah, no problem. I got you.
Oh
my
that's
gosh.
good. That's good. Thank you.
Love it.
Actually, I really like the Scandinavian one. That was really hilarious.
That was awesome.
Well, if you want more of us lovely ladies, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, and if you'd like to rate and review us, you can do so on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yay. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we look forward to bringing you 2 new stories next week.
Bye.